Hey everyone! Today, I'm here to share an absolutely incredible story with you. One that's emotional, inspiring, and filled with life lessons. It's the story of Jochebed, a woman whose faith and courage defied an entire empire. You may not recognize her name right away, but trust me, her actions changed the course of history for an entire nation. So, let's dive into this powerful tale of hope, faith, and resilience. First, let's set the scene. Picture ancient Egypt at the height of its power, with the pharaohs ruling over everything. The Hebrews, descendants of Jacob, had grown into a great nation. Their numbers frightened the pharaoh, who feared they might rise up and overthrow his rule. His solution? Brutal and heartless. He decreed that every newborn Hebrew boy must be thrown into the Nile River. Imagine the terror and heartbreak that swept through every Hebrew family. This is where we meet Jochebed, a simple woman with an extraordinary heart. Married to Amram and mother to two children, Aaron and Miriam, Jochebed finds herself facing a devastating reality. She's pregnant, and deep down, she knows it might be a boy. Can you imagine her fear? Every day of her pregnancy must have been a mix of hope and dread. But when her baby was born, everything changed. The Bible says the baby was beautiful, but it was more than that. Jochebed felt in her soul that God had a special purpose for him. And so, her fight began. For 3 months, she hid her baby. Think about how hard that must have been. Keeping a newborn quiet, avoiding any suspicion. Every cry was a risk. She must have spent sleepless nights watching over him, praying for God's protection. And right here, we already see such a powerful lesson. How often do we face situations where fear tries to paralyze us? Jochebed shows us that faith can overcome even the deepest fears. But as the weeks passed, hiding him became impossible. That's when Jochebed made a bold and faith-filled decision. She crafted a basket from reeds, sealed it with tar and pitch, and placed her baby inside. Then, she set him afloat on the Nile River, the same river that had become a symbol of death for Hebrew boys. Can you even begin to imagine what she felt in that moment? She wasn't giving up on her son. She was entrusting him entirely to God. Now, let's pause here for a moment of reflection. How many times have we faced situations where everything feels completely out of our control? Often, the only thing we can do is hand over our fears, doubts, and struggles to God and trust Him to take care of what we can't. Just like Jochebed placed Moses in the river, maybe it's time for us to surrender our burdens and trust in God's plan. And God's plan? It was incredible. That little basket floated right into the spot where Pharaoh's daughter was bathing. When she opened it and saw the baby crying, her heart was moved with compassion. She decided to adopt him, not knowing he was a Hebrew child. But wait, there's more. Miriam, Moses' sister, had been watching from a distance. With quick thinking, she approached Pharaoh's daughter and suggested finding a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby. And guess who she chose? Jochebed herself. God worked it out so that Jochebed could spend a few more precious years with her son, teaching him about his heritage and the God of Israel. Here's another powerful takeaway. God never abandons us. Even when everything seems lost, He's working behind the scenes, taking care of every detail. Jochebed's story reminds us that faith connects us to a God who always has a bigger plan. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, receiving the best education Egypt could offer, but he never forgot his roots. And when the time came, he became the deliverer of the Hebrew people. He confronted Pharaoh, led the Hebrews out of slavery, and guided them toward the promised land. All of this began with the courage of a mother who chose to trust God above all else. Now, think about the impact of that. Jochebed wasn't a queen. She didn't have wealth or political power. She was an ordinary mom, but her extraordinary faith changed the future of a nation. And this makes us think, what can we do with the faith we have? Are we willing to trust God, even when we don't understand what's happening? Jochebed teaches us that when we place our trust in God, He can turn even the most difficult situations into something extraordinary. Her story also challenges us to be intentional with the time we have. Jochebed knew her time with Moses would be short, but she made the most of it. She taught him, prepared him, and that made all the difference in his life. And what about us? Are we making the most of the time we have to teach, inspire, and impact those around us? Finally, let me leave you with a question. What are you holding on to, afraid to place in God's hands? Maybe it's a dream, a fear, or a relationship. Jochebed's story invites us to trust God more and believe that He's in control, even when everything seems to be falling apart. So, what did you think of this story? If it touched your heart, let me know in the comments what inspired you the most. Let's keep reflecting together and learning from these incredible stories of faith. See you next time.